Hello and welcome to another program of Resource PNG. Interoil has been around for a number of years. They have an oil refinery at Napa just outside of Port Moresby. The company is a major fuel supplier and runs fuel stations across the nation. And probably the biggest venture yet is they're wanting to start the second LNG project in PNG. Here is an interview I did with Interoil's Group CEO, Phil Molasek. Welcome to the program. We're joined by the Group CEO for Interoil Corporation, Phil Molasek. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Eunice.
So, we're all wondering, where exactly are we with the Interoil's development of that LNG project in the Gulf area? Where exactly are you in the stream of development?
In the development stage, we had to get the final sanction by government. There was an early sanction, and then during the constitutional period caused some headwinds for us. We weren't pre-approved. Exxon had it approved, so it didn't cause any delays. For us, we had the headwinds for almost 2 years. With the new government being established, that cleared a ever-precedenting area that we finally got approval. It's conditional because we have to document the final things with the government. So it's in principle all agreed, getting the paperwork. There'll be gas agreements with the state, which is a standard process. That takes a little bit. We had submitted some draft agreements, so that will take an iterative process. And the Prime Minister and the Minister put in I guess like a ministerial committee that they have. We spoke to certain people, including people with the Gulf, to make sure that the integrity of the infrastructure for the Gulf is maintained. And then they'll give those directions to subcommittees, as always, and get that done. So we're in with the Prime Minister reached agreement, as he said, get on with it, but you still have to get the paperwork, the final documents. It's as Minister Duma said, it takes some time sometimes for them just to get the paperwork, but we'll get it done. The biggest steps were getting that alignment and making sure that it's long-term sustainable, as I said in my speech, which has been overlooked, especially in that province, for forever. It's never had any attention, and never had any real promise, and people would just leave all the villages. Now there's a foundation, and we hope that we have stated it correctly, that what we're doing is proper morally, should be done, and it puts responsibility back to the local area. It puts it back into the region, puts it back onto the province for some of the long term. So they'll have to look at themselves. The people that get educated will then say, hey, they're going to have, with that volume of gas, a long-term responsibility. So we actually think that'll work better, and it'll set a precedent for other areas throughout the country to really help the standard of living, which long-term helps a project. So we think it's good.
All right. So if this project goes ahead, or when this project gets done,
yeah,
you'd basically be giving a lot of investment. It will mean a lot to the Gulf province. The
yes.
thing is, who's your partner?
The partner, we were able to do the project ourselves. And when there was, as I said, a headwind with the government, then you can't close on that partner. So the first they want to know, hey, what's the framework? There was all different fractions. I mean, we've been in PNG 20 years. I mean, I've been there a long time. So we've seen that everyone has an opinion, but you have to get that consensus. You have that now with the government, and it looks very stable and aligned, so that makes the partnering process, but that had to be disclosed, and that was just done in the last 2 weeks. So, you know, once you do that, it's reaffirmed on some key investment criteria that was addressed by the Prime Minister today. And those 5 criteria by far is very critical, and having it come from the top down in alignment with all the rest of the people within government is very important. And the Prime Minister has met a number of the people that are interested, but that closure of that final bid was, what's the final configuration? If the Gulf needs power, needs key infrastructure, make sure that's done, and then we can sort out the balance. Industry is very efficient, and we'll get that done.
Where is Interoil's interest in PNG? Learn more about that when we return. Most of Interoil's projects are in the Gulf province. Seeing that this part of PNG has been neglected for a long time, Interoil believes that their project will make a big difference to the people there. So, where exactly is your interest in Papua New Guinea? Because we hear Antelope One, Elk. Where exactly is it located, and what's the name? What are the names of these places?
Interoil has actually been part of all of Papua New Guinea. We've done a refinery when people didn't understand it, and they still probably part of that. We'll take responsibility. Take some that the communication of that project for the people hasn't been well understood. At first, most people thought you couldn't establish that business in PNG. Okay. They mocked it. They said, okay, hey, you just go bankrupt. Most of the international major oil companies said that would happen. And early on, it wasn't, we weren't that efficient. The economy was bad. We started up in the worst financial crisis of the nation's history. Yet we stuck it out, okay? And then we turned that corner as the nation did. So that meant we then distribute fuel in every part of the country. We're the only one that takes on that fiscal and social responsibility. We don't cherry pick just Port Moresby or just Ley and leave all the other areas out of fuel supply. And every time there's a crisis, we're there delivering fuel. Even if it's during tsunamis or unseasonal weather or flooding, we're one of the first responders, because without fuel, there's no aid. Okay, so consistently for day and year after year, we're there. So in that regard, we're everywhere in the country. We're the only one that's taken on that responsibility.
You took over from BP and Shell.
People that left the country, yeah, and then try to rationalize. And there's more to be done. We're not saying it's perfect yet, okay? But we have a lot of good people, okay? On the exploration, we're primarily in Gulf, Chimbu, in that area. Okay, that's been our area. We used to have core assets in Western, but we recognize in the exploration side, we couldn't stay focused. Okay, so we have Elk and Antelope, which are two different discoveries. We just found another one in the Gulf, Triceratops. We have other areas all the way through to Central that we are very excited on. So we think that our area and our footprint of success has brought and attracted a large number of new companies, from Total to PRE, and others have come in. And when we were here, there was only a couple players and only a few licenses. As he said, the record number of licenses, so that it's fostered. We welcomed it. We stated it 4 years ago, and that brings more efficiency to the system. More service companies, brings everybody's cost down. It makes it more sustainable long-term for government, local government, provincial government. So our core exploration area is the Gulf area, onshore. We don't do offshore. We leave that for international super majors. So we keep to our knitting, as they say, to try to be efficient.
So the reports that you had already published for this year, concerning Triceratops, Elk, and Antelope, how are they looking? How are they in terms of reserves?
Reserves is a quantification like that glass, saying, do you have water in it? Yeah, some will look at it and say, well, maybe it's alcohol, but we have it certified to a set volume. What you do is, it's a resource until you declare FID. It doesn't change the water in the glass.
And FID is not done yet?
No. FID is after we get the final documentation from the government. We close with our partner, and then we'll declare FID. And what's benefit is the government says, now that they've seen a lot more with the Exxon project, and they've visited other LNG facilities, power, and they said, oh, now we understand. It doesn't matter if it's conventional or modular. Get it done. Keep the efficiencies that you have, because we're not as complex as the Exxon. That's all we were saying. We're 1/7 the complexity. So it makes it easier. You don't have to be a super major. A super major may be in, okay? but that is actually better for the country. And as you develop it, then gas that's deemed stranded in the western province may not be. If exploration is successful in the northern part of Papua New Guinea, should it be deemed stranded? No. How come you can develop LNG all over China in small scale plants? Yeah. Okay, there's 40 of them that's been developed since the last time we were here 2 years ago. So the world changes, just like Apple changed it from Nokia on cell phones, and everybody knows about cell phones, but 10 years ago it wasn't. So the same thing occurs in technology and exploration. So either embrace the change and try to help and say, how does that benefit everybody, not just a selected few. So having been in PNG, it's become our family. So we try to do what's right long-term sustainably, and that goes right through the resource. So I'm going back to Antelope. We just drilled and are successful in a well right now, today, live. We got gas all morning, so we hit the top of a reef, and it was the same structure, but our prognosis was conservative, and it came in better. And we're not done yet. It'll be through this month, but it should be another actually benefit for our company, the Gulf, and for PNG. It will people from the outside, whether they're an Australian competitor or somebody else, it puts high quality assets in the country, and that's what this conference is, attracting good, strong foreign investment for the long term, not in and out capital. Okay, elk, we're going to be we're ready to drill, but to be a little bit more efficient because the state ultimately pays for 22.5%. We worked with the Department of Petroleum, the minister, and they said, hey, let's have some shared efficiencies. So they gave a minor variance and said, hey, yeah, let's tweak this, and it's better for everybody. So we did that. We also brought in a new partner on Triceratops, which is just west of our major discoveries. And that was very successful this year. And we had another discovery. So we're building up the strength of the core and then a Rolodex of future growth that we know we have the best track record of exploration in the country's history ever. We didn't buy somebody out. It's organic. Right. So that the people from that area, like we have landowners say, oh, we want to be part of that. And say, well, but you don't live in that area. Don't worry, we think that there's great prospectivity and we're going to go drilling in that area. So you'll have your own discovery. And other people are coming in. And the trend that people sort of mocked us early on, like a lot of people in the world mocked Papua New Guinea. Now they have to recognize it is going to be an LNG, and that's a transformation. You feel proud of it. Oil Search, Total, Kina Petroleum, and others are coming into the area that we were questioned on. And there's nothing more rewarding, and that's good for the people, it's good for us. And we said there's plenty of area. Somebody can't say no country is ever developed by only one company, and that's inappropriate to ever think. And we're smart enough and been there long enough to say, hey, the more efficiencies we all working together can bring, ultimately you have a better project and it's more sustainable.
The government has given a conditional approval to Interoil for their proposed LNG project. We will have more on that when we come back. Interoil got a lot of slack in 2012. It ranged from trying to pin down a date for the final investment decision, or FID, to getting an experienced partner for their proposed LNG project. Recently, the government had stated that they gave Interoil a conditional approval for their proposed project. We asked Interoil's Group CEO, Phil Malasek, just what that means.
So what volumes are you looking at if you combine all this? How much
Our
LNG
one
gas are you
discovery is bigger than the 5 fields that the Exxon project are on. So the cost efficiency that we're bringing is, as I said, it's 1/7, so the pipeline is 1/7.
Shorter, yes.
So not only shorter, but then the terrain is a lot easier. It's still wet, it rains a lot, and but we all those, we've all been working in PNG for a long time, so you understand, hey, whether we all accept certain unknowns, but we've learned to try to be a little bit more innovative on how we bring in infrastructure. We build bridges for a fraction, and people from the Highlands have just contacted us and say they'd love to be able to use this as a business model in other parts of PNG, because we're executing on complex infrastructure faster at a cost structure that's 5-10% of what, and as the Prime Minister said, budget control efficiencies by people are paramount for Papua New Guinea to accept what's going on. We have to all do our part, and if we can learn from somebody else, we accept. And if we can bring something more efficient in, we're happy to share that. We're not going to worry about keeping those secrets. It's if we can bring an efficiency that can help the Highlands on roads or on bridges, do it. Okay.
So this year has been what I'd say would be eventful for Interoil. What would be the highlight for 2012?
I think the agreement by the government to turn a headwind to a tailwind is the highlight. I mean, the expiration is great. I mean, we all love it. I mean, there's nothing like our team, the smiles, everyone's proud in the company, all the people that have put their lives with us for 10 to 15 years, and we've seen them grow from their careers. I mean, that as always, that's family, okay? But as an external event for us, and it's sort of the icebreaker breaking the ice sheet, that was key when the government got solidified and the Prime Minister and Cabinet said, yeah, okay, get started, and they recognized the long-term job, and we've been there. That's rewarding. It is, we sort of like, sometimes the local people, you all feel orphaned because other companies can take the limelight, but it's sort of, we feel proud that we finally got that and we can get going, and we're going to try to do it in a really responsible manner.
So, Mr. Duma had said that the government has given Interoil a conditional approval.
Yep.
What exactly does that mean?
Well, because the paperwork, it's actually, I think the Prime Minister said conditional, because even though it's NEC and there's recommendation, the legal documents, we had a project agreement, have to be updated, and then we have to go into the gas agreement. So you don't have a final permit until all that done. We can't get into the forums yet. Even though we've done 2 years worth of work. I mean, we've done centerline, we've done social mapping, because we've been there for a long time. We've been in the country. We've been addressing landowner issues throughout our operation, whether it's, we've been in Bougainville, so everywhere that there's been either conflicts and floods, and we've been there, and so we've addressed. Are we perfect? No. But we try to do the best we can, but that meant we had an early head start when we were exploring to understand landowner clan groups and that social impact from medical to whatever services. That's built us a foundation that we're way advanced, so it won't be as rushed as other projects have had. Okay, not purposely. Part of it is, we would have liked it to go faster, but because it took a little bit longer, we actually have done things better now. We're not going to rush in and then have certain budgetary problems that other projects have had, because, we had enough time to sort out a lot of key infrastructure that people said out of the US and Europe, big engineering firm says, it's impossible, you can't do that. Well, surprise, we've done it. And 85% Papua New Guinean. So we go, okay, what's next? Now that we broke the backbone of the really hard problems, the efficiencies will be there for us.
So what sort of time frame are we looking at? When can we actually see what's going to come of this project?
I think you got to ask the minister and the Prime Minister. They said they want to get it done. There's Parliament by early February, so I think they want to get a lot of it done. We're ready. We were asked by the Secretary to come back, immediately after this, so we'll be up in Port Moresby with the team. We're always there. So, I mean, I would hope that it's, if I put a timeline, then everyone tries to hold it to it. Yeah, or people that would like it to slow down to manipulate a timeline could then do it. So, I mean, I think there's genuine integrity to get it resolved, and I mean, it's resolved. We get it documented and finished. I think that's from the Prime Minister down. Minister Duma just said, welcomed him, said, hey, let's get together. He wants to talk. I mean, I really see the sincerity that they see the Exxon project is winning down. We can easily, comfortably fill a big gap that's there for employment and ramp up. So I think they know that, for them not to have a shock within the economic system, they have to get focused. But they were pre-focused on their own governmental issues. So, you know, I can't blame anybody. I mean, it's just, we've been there long enough. We said, okay, when it's right, it gets done. It's right now. So I think we can say that we're 100% committed. We won't stop. We work fuel supply for hospitals, police, and for everybody. Christmas Day, New Year's Day, around the clock. We drill 24 hours a day. So we won't be holding anything up. We'll work hand in hand, and we'll work with the government system and make sure that we get it done on our side.
Thank you, Mr. Malasek, for your time.
Thank you, Eunice.
That was the Group CEO for Interoil Corporation, Mr. Phil Malasek.
That was the Group CEO for the Interoil Corporation, Phil Malasek. After the break, we have a presentation that was done by Mr. Malasek at the 12th Annual Mining and Petroleum Investment Conference. Here is a presentation that was given by Interoil's Group CEO, Phil Malasek, at the 12th PNG Mining and Petroleum Investment Conference. He talks about the company's interest in PNG.
We've been in PNG over 15 years, so we've seen transition. I went almost 22 years ago, so we've seen airports, a total transformation of the country, the people, and we're proud to say that we've been there. And during that time, you get, I guess, as the speaker this morning said, you hear facts and then there's fiction. So hopefully we can clarify some of the points today. A little bit of history for Interoil. We started with the refinery that was stated earlier. Today we've processed over 100 crude cargoes. That's sourced from West Africa, Asia, Australia, and Papua New Guinea. So really a global impact. And it started originally thinking that it would be just Papua New Guinea crude, but really the material balance and the diet of consumption requires different crudes. And sometimes that means a flare, sometimes it means no flare. All of those are different. But what it is 11.5 billion liters of processed fuel. We've done over 5 million man hours since inception without one LTI. So safety has always been first, and we're very proud of that. So it's given us a proven capacity of operating a more complex system. When people thought we couldn't operate in PNG, it couldn't be done commercially, it wouldn't be viable. And it took a little bit of time, and a lot of that was overlooked. So we've always put the people first. The complexity of a refinery in a niche place like Papua New Guinea is very challenging and had a lot of items to overcome. And then we've followed that through with distribution because it wasn't always adhered to within some of the more remote areas of Papua New Guinea. We're proud of that distribution. We're the only ones that really service all the outports, and that means sometimes they're non-profitable. You have to subsidize a lack of infrastructure, whether it's wharfs, product viability, but we hope that at the end it's recognized by the people of the country. Our services go beyond just making fuel. We've been there. Our people are family. They've been with us for almost 2 decades. So we continue with medical, whether it's directly in our area or throughout our provinces. Clean water supply, dysentery, the lack of local infrastructure, people from around the world here really don't appreciate how remote a lot of Papua New Guinea is and the total lack of core infrastructure. So we're going to spend a little bit on that today. We've continued to do those reinvestments. We are a small company, just about 1% of our distinguished guests here, but we try to make an impact in a positive way wherever we can. Throughout it, with training, through healthcare, that key foundation, we have a number of key staff that have been with us a long time. And we've done and taken on those challenges before we were even there, before there was even an economic basis for development for gas. So whether it's daily activities in the remote areas that they need emergency services, our medical people are always treating local people within the area, even before we even had a project. We treated the local landowners. And that's overlooked. And that foundation we try to reiterate so that others in the country, as you go forward, recognize it's not just saying it, you have to do it, you have to do it consistently. We've been doing it for 15 years. What's different about the project from 2 years ago? We had some headwinds, as they say, and that's part of Papua New Guinea, overcoming those challenges. One of the things that was asked was all of those services. How does Papua New Guinea get some core, vital, essential services in an area like the Gulf? It's not a lot when you look at it, and I'll cover that in a little more detail. It's just taking that first step of commitment. And we see a new dawn working together in a partnership, staying committed to the people, and they are part of us. So the Prime Minister and NEC, the Honorable Minister of Petroleum, William Duma, agreed that we could kickstart and go forward. We had a traditional project where it all go through. We said, no, we could go forward, and we reduced the capacity to 3.8 million tons, and we're in the final completion of that with the committee, with the NEC and the Minister. But the key fundamentals are that they were looking at taking part of their equity gas as a first, and looking at some of that for local power and infrastructure, or it may be supplied to other projects, whether it's petrochemicals or other LNG, and that has to be completed. They asked if there's a surplus amount of gas, can they acquire up to half? And the answer is yes. If we cut our minimum, we're happy. So we're pleased to be the first, but why? Look at the hospital down in Kerama. It's not like anything here. You don't even have decent windscreens for malaria. The power facilities are totally inadequate. You'll have up to maybe 4 hours of power some days. Some days you don't have power. Why? Look at how the fuel have to be distributed. There's no pipeline. There's no standard wharf. It doesn't have infrastructure for any cost-effective delivery. The cost of gas to supply power will probably be 5% of what it costs to take crude oil from halfway around the world, refine it, store it, retransport it, put it into drums, throw the drums in an area that is tidal, and then carry those drums back into a power plant. How inefficient is that? Okay? It doesn't take much gas to provide the core essential backbone for a country. Why we think it's important? Without energy, I think it was Theodore Roosevelt's wife that said one of the most transforming events in the U.S. for the standard of living wasn't the telephone. It wasn't just the light bulb. It's actually electricity in the refrigerator. When people don't have, when they have refrigeration, food lasts. People can last a week or two. What does that do for coastal communities? They can survive. You can have power, you can have sewage, you can have clean water. You can actually maintain infrastructure with cost-effective energy. So we saw that that right to take that equity gas is okay. It has to be done responsibly, absolutely. Can the country do that? It's a young nation. We think it can. But the amount of power is relatively irrelevant versus what we have today.
Projects in the mining and petroleum sector mean more services to the people in rural areas. Join us after the break to hear about what Interoil wants to do in this regard. Interoil is determined to make the best of their interest in the Gulf province. They see this place as a good prospect and are willing to put in the hard yards. They want to create jobs for the people and help develop the province.
To put it into a schematic, a typical project is up above. PAC LNG and Interoil, our partners. And then the government backs in at the PDL, and then you have one project. But then there's a lot of sometimes mistaken ideas of where's the domestic market? How much gas does that use? It really doesn't use that much gas. When we look at it, we saw that if the Gulf project is around 9.5 TCF certified, then you're looking at about 10%, okay, of just the state's equity gas of about 2 TCF, 2,000 BCF, would electrify almost the whole country. 1/10 of that could be used in the Gulf, and they would have a 50-year supply. So 1/10 of 1% is all it needs to improve the standard of living for the people. We think that's an affordable, responsible way to go forward. So as we go forward, we're still in the final stages, but we clearly have enough gas for our own project. The government can go and add that back. We can combine it, or it may go to other people developing, whether it's our distinguished guests or new players that are coming into Papua New Guinea. We'll be active. We committed to work with the minister. He committed to that today. So, and the increases are all on economic basis. The overall configuration, just an efficient sort of sweet spot in the industry. Industry is, they mentioned today, whether it's Peru at 5 million tons, EG at 4, standard sweet spots around 4 million tons, 3.8, a little bit more. It's irrelevant versus the certified size of the field. It's much more simple than the Exxon project. We would never even look at a project like that. It's 7 times larger just in pipelines alone. So we look at a relatively small pipeline, less adverse as far as terrain. Rainfall, we have the same. Okay, they said record rainfall. I don't think no one's ever measured the weather long enough to have any established baseline. We keep getting records every year. So, but that's part of Papua New Guinea. And to be seasoned, you have to have that tenacity and that understanding that you're going to be flexible to deal with those weather conditions. And then we look at a facility to basically improve that standard and bring core infrastructure into a very remote area of Papua New Guinea in the Gulf. And they have the resources, and they deem some of that development. And that really will change the long-term value and standard of living for the people. And I don't have all the exacts, so I don't want to offend anybody, but there is a big difference between the XM project. It's because of its location, the complexity of a number of fields. We're a lot simpler, shorter pipeline, 1/7. We're not necessarily 1/7 the cost, but it gives you a scope, whether it's built in Kerama or in Port Moresby. The unit cost of LNG will be about the same. The difference is we're smaller pipeline, less severe terrain, so the CapEx will be a little bit more efficient. And as the Prime Minister said, budget is an issue. So we should be very competitive within the global market. What have we done? We continue to keep working, whether it's on infrastructure, and as we go from exploration, where we've been highly successful, we go into a transition of development. So we try to shift our exploration to become more and more cost-effective in a time when the world has just experienced one compounding problem after another with cost. We've said, no, we'll re-refine it and try to diffuse helicopter support and be more innovative on infrastructure. We had engineers that says you couldn't build roads. Well, they clearly haven't been to PNG very often, and they haven't talked to Exxon, our esteemed guest, because you can't build roads. It takes some hard work, but you got to get it done. But on exploration, we've changed and looking at more permanent infrastructure. You see that on the upstream left. Our marine facilities and getting river access and making sure that we can bring cost-effective modules, trucks, and utilization. We've been very proud of getting very advanced in Howe Creek wharf facilities. We're the first ones bringing in our new rig in the bottom photo. by truck, it's 80 tons by road. And that was a little bit more innovative. We had Australian contractors, very high cost. We used old former military bridges for about $35,000 to get to 80 ton. We're actually at 260 ton loads we can take, and we did it at record time. And that's, we have our own gravel operations. That's the one day it didn't rain. You can see some dust. But we have relatively good roads and foundations for long-term, very efficient development. Conceptual design, as I said, has just happened in the last couple of weeks. So just a concept that we can build. We know we're confident of the facility for the Gulf and to keep that long-term employment. A little bit of the complement of the full cycle. We haven't been here in a little while, but PRL 15 is where the license is. It's a core of the elk and antelope structure. We just are drilling that structure out. We're proud to say that we're drilling the top of the reef today. Got gas, should be, I think we submitted the testing, or it's in today. But in addition to that license, there's exploration lower. Maybe we can fix some of the oil problem. We've been wanting that oil for a refinery for a long time. But we deem that it's probably deeper, like in the highlands. It's the gas is more shallow. Where the location is, we think that there is a vast amount of upside. We've seen that since we started. A lot of different parties have contacted us about exploration, what our views and thought processes were. And we are proud to say a number of new players have come in, and we see that's a great positive for the country. We said it 4 years ago and still maintain it today.
So what does the company plan to do for the coming years? Find out after the break. Interoil continues with its exploration in its acreages. They have a number of exploration projects in the Gulf province. At their recent discovery called Triceratops, they're working with a company called Pacific Rubiales. Here is Mr. Phil Malasek.
Certified gas, that's what it is. It's not an estimate that somebody say you have to, like a bank, you got to have an audit. So we have enough gas to take care of it. People ask, well, what happens when the government takes their gas? It's still a net volume on a certified basis to take care of all the gas we need to do and have flexibility to work together as a partner with Papua New Guinea to continue the long-term development of natural gas resources and make sure that that is done in a viable, responsible manner. A little bit about we were there, we were blessed. So talking about the wells and the resource. We entered in an area that was fairly contradictory. People didn't think, at least when we were heavily involved in the exploration, the country had much promise. Today it's totally different. We're proud to say that our non-conventional thinking, or maybe just we saw it differently, is proven right. We've established a new trend, and we see a lot of new activity in that trend. Even existing players and new players, whether it's Total, Oil Search, Kina Petroleum, all coming and securing licenses on our trend line that we're very proud of. So what do we look at? We've been working with the minister, very thankful for his support in getting our appraisal wells done. We also, in parallel, been working on the exploration. And we're not as big as Exxon, so our labor manpower is constrained a little bit, but we stagger and try to do it as efficiently as possible. And with the support of the department, we're continuing our seismic activity, all of our market subsurface activities, is working with the LNG in parallel. And the minister agreed that since the state is going to own 22.5% and have to pay for it, we're all working together for the most cost-effective execution going forward. As I briefly mentioned, exploration, I know it's a little bit more detail, but our single wells can do as much as 4,000 wells down in non-conventional Australia on coal bed methane. So it's important to put a perspective on it. Not that you'd always maintain that rate, but we were, as I said, blessed with the reservoir that has proven to be the highest capacity, most prolific reservoir that's been discovered in the last 30 years in Asia. So we're been conservative, but we just hit our the top of the reef, about 215 feet higher. We're just drilling through it, and the quality looks exactly like we predicted. So that'll impact the overall ultimate recovery as Stelz adds continued foundation on gas supply, which makes it easier for the government so they can see that long-term we'll continue to add long-term gas supply in this press it on the 22%. Again, a picture of the rig moving in. So we've shifted from heli-portable, saying that long-term development, since we're in a different area and lots of exploration, the critical infrastructure we build for exploration will be used for long-term, more cost-effective LNG development. But then we can incrementally expand into the exploration area cost-effectively and remove not all the helicopters, but a lot of the overheads on a per-well basis. And we think we can have a watershed event and cost control going forward and do more exploration for a set budget. And what we're proud, in a relatively short period, built a long road system that's, say, PNG proven for extreme rainfall, and that rig is all ready to go. We're just going to be efficient on how we move services from the Antelope 3 well to Elk 3. New partners, it was mentioned today, there's a number of new players. We're proud to bring in one of them. They came in on our Triceratops exploration development, where we have a new discovery. Very proud of that, and the minister's congratulations on that, and welcoming a new player, Pacific Rubiales, in that license area. Who are they? They have about 240,000 barrels of production, started from zero. So about 6 or 7 times larger than the Kutubu, Moran, and overall production combined. And they've done a lot of organic growth. So they come in as an experienced player in jungle and development on a proven basis. And that adds new synergies for us, so we can also go and explore in some other license areas that we do have. That structure is unique. It's not yet fully defined. We have a lot of seismic, some additional wells to drill, but we see great promise. We had very good flows and a lot more work to do. The department asked us to spend a little more time. We spent a couple months doing additional subsurface work and testing and completion. And all that does is build us a greater foundation that this will have gas supply long-term to add into LNG or other expansions. In closing remarks, we've been there a long time. It's going to take a lot of different attributes to close and go forward. It takes partnerships with the state and government, which we've been a part of. There's a lot of responsibility, and this will mark a new era of having equity gas, which may flow back into any project or be totally independent, and the state can commercially look at additional supply from us. But unless that's addressed, we didn't see a long-term solution to the Gulf and the people. I mean, we see that money is one thing, but if you don't put in the key infrastructure for health care, education, and without electricity, you can't even get started. Now, that's a fraction, 1/10 of 1% for the Gulf. So it's irrelevant on the big picture. But we think that that maintains the growth and value for everybody in a fair and responsible manner. We're pleased to work with the cabinet, the teams, to get this done. The minister is committed, I said earlier, to work with us on our partners and closing the LNG project. The new partners, as far as coming into PNG, whether it was mentioned earlier, Total, Mitsubishi, or PRE, we see that there's a new dawn of a lot more activity. And how we develop projects will influence how those people go forward, because no one just wants to be on the E side. Without the P, you don't grow. So you have to get it into production. And what we see is here's the typical villages of in the area that we work. They do have the right to see standards of living improved. And we think it's morally and responsible to do so. And we expect to do it to a broader impact than just 1 or 2 in our license area. Our local landowners in our area are only 900 versus a country of 7 million. So it will change a lot of people. And with that, I want to thank you. And it's a last-minute presentation, but hopefully you have a better understanding of who we are, what we're doing. Thank you.
That concludes another night with Resource PNG. You're welcome to view this presentation again on our Resource PNG page at www.mtv.com.pg, and do email us if you have any suggestions or queries. Until the same time next week, have a pleasant week.